Welcome to Greed MRI, and thank you for joining us. We are the Greed Detector. Just like Rush Limbaugh was the Truth Detector, we take a close look at the people and products, scams, and business systems that shape your everyday life, and we show you what's really going on behind the curtain. Fake internet sites exist. I know that firsthand. But once you accept that fake sites are real, you have to consider the next step. A fake AI system feeding artificial signals to algorithms everywhere. There's a moment in every technological shift when the danger isn't the technology itself, it's the illusion it creates. After I retired, I fell for a scam that never should have fooled me. A fake Gemini stock exchange interface built with AI perfectly mimicked the real thing. Same layout, same colors, same live updating numbers, same rhythm, a flawless clone. It didn't hack my account. It didn't break into Google. It didn't touch a single line of code. It simply looked real enough that my brain accepted it. It cost me six figures late in life. That's when the realization hit me. If a fake interface can fool a human, then a fake user can fool an algorithm. Not by hacking it, not by rewriting it, but by feeding it in a world that isn't real. That's the danger no one's talking about. What if an AI could quietly create a non-human population of investors, tens of thousands of artificial people who read earnings reports, comment on stocks, behave just realistically enough to convince financial algorithms that a company is heating up when it really isn't? What if it could generate non-human voters, not bots, but believable political personas that watch debates, argue in comment sections, and create the illusion of a growing movement that never actually existed? But what if it could simulate non-human shoppers, millions of them, browsing products, comparing brands, leaving reviews, tricking e-commerce algorithms into believing a product is trending when no human ever cared? Now imagine all three happening at the same time. And imagine the algorithms, the systems that shape what we see, what we buy, what we believe, treating every artificial signal as real, not because they're broken, but because they're obedient. This isn't science fiction. It's a blind spot in every major algorithm today. And here's the part that should worry everyone. I've verified this with 4 major AI systems in the US this week, and every one of them confirmed the same thing. Yes, without question, it can be done. But it gets even worse. Think about this one, non-human political communities. Imagine an AI generating 100,000 non-human political personas, not bots, but believable people who watch debates, comment on issues, argue with each other, follow certain creators, abandon others, create the illusion of a growing movement. The online algorithm sees rising engagement, rising watch time, rising community formation. So then it concludes this topic is gaining traction. But behind the scenes, the traction is 100% artificial. This could distort political visibility, trending topics, perceived public sentiment, not by hacking the platform, but by feeding it a non-human political ecosystem that looks real. Another example is artificial consumer demand. E-commerce algorithms rely on browsing patterns, add to cart behavior, reviews, search queries, dwell time. Now, imagine 250,000 non-human shoppers that browse specific products, compare alternatives, leave realistic reviews, add items to carts, abandon carts, search for certain brands. The online algorithm sees rising demand, rising interest, rising engagement, and it concludes this product is trending. But the trend is 100% artificial. This could distort search rankings, bestseller lists, pricing algorithms, competitor visibility. Again, not by hacking anything, but by simulating demand that never existed. So, what do the AIs themselves say? To sanity check this entire idea, I asked the 4 major AI systems in the US, Google's Gemini, OpenAI's ChatGPT, xAI's Grok, and Microsoft Copilot, the exact same question. If an algorithm receives large amounts of realistic, non-human behavior as input data, will it treat those signals the same way it treats human behavior? And can that artificial behavior influence the algorithm's outputs without ever touching the algorithm code? Folks, all four gave the same answer. Not similar answers, not close answers, identical answers. Here's their shared conclusion. Algorithms cannot tell human behavior from non-human behavior if the signals look realistic. Every system said the same thing. Data is just data. Algorithms don't understand humanity. They understand patterns. Algorithms treat input signals as truth. If the signals look human, the system processes them as human. There is no philosophical filter. No, is this real? It's just math. Artificial behavior can shift algorithmic outputs without touching the code. All four systems confirm this. Change the input patterns, and the algorithm updates itself to match the inputs, the new reality. This affects both real-time recommendations and long-term retraining. Artificial signals can influence what people see right now, and they can also reshape the model the next time it retrains. Platforms try to detect non-human behavior, but that's a separate system. There is no built-in ability in the algorithms to detect non-human behavior. If the non-human behavior passes the filters, the algorithm treats it as genuine. And here's the most important shared conclusion. If non-human behavior looks real, the algorithm will treat it as real because algorithms don't understand people. They understand patterns. That's not my opinion. That's the consensus from 4 independent AI systems built by 4 different companies, the major AI sources in our country today. What they are basically saying is that the same brains that created the algorithms and artificial intelligence could also create a way to fool existing systems without detection. Algorithms don't see truth. They see patterns. Every major platform, YouTube, TikTok, Amazon, Google, X, they all run on the same principle. Algorithms don't understand reality. They understand signals. Algorithms don't know who is real, who is fake, who is human, who is non-human, who is coordinated, who's manipulated. They only know clicks, watch time, dwell time, comments, shares, similarity graphs, engagement clusters. If the signals look real, the algorithm treats them as real. This is the blind spot. This is the vulnerability. This is the opening. The next evolution, non-human behavior at scale. For a decade, we talked about bot farms, click farms, fake reviews, but those were crude tools. They were noisy, they were repetitive, they were easy to spot, they were nothing compared to what's coming. What's emerging now and what nobody is writing about is different. AI-generated non-human identities that behave like real people, not bots, not scripts, not spam, but AI-driven behavioral clones that watch TV, scroll the feeds, leave comments, form interest clusters, follow creators, abandon creators, binge content. And folks, they can do it 24/7 at scale with variation, with personality, with unpredictability, with emotional tone. This is not science fiction. The building blocks already exist. What doesn't exist yet is a public conversation about what all this means. The existing algorithms don't need to be hacked. They only need to be influenced. This is the conceptual breakthrough. Most people think algorithm manipulation means hacking, injecting code, breaking into systems, and there are existing safeguards to detect and prevent that. But the real vulnerability is much simpler. You don't need to change the algorithm. You only need to change what the algorithm sees. If you can generate artificial engagement, artificial watch patterns, non-human user clusters, artificial interest graphs, non-human communities, then the algorithm will react to those signals as if they were real, because it has no mechanism to tell the difference. This is the same principle behind my Gemini Stock Exchange clone experience. The system wasn't hacked, I was. Algorithms can be fooled in exactly the same way. Then we have the greed factor. Why algorithms freeze what they don't understand. Here's the part that makes this dangerous. Algorithms are built to maximize watch time, ad revenue, retention, engagement. So when they encounter something they can't classify, like my Greed MRI long-form videos, shorts, and even my Greed MRI podcast, they freeze it, not out of malice, but out of uncertainty. If non-human behavior floods a category, the algorithm may misclassify content, bury creators, elevate the wrong signals, suppress legitimate trends, amplify artificial ones, not because it's broken, but because it's confused, and confusion is expensive. So the algorithm plays it safe, and the artificial signals it receives accomplish their mission. They win. Now, the scary part, the unsettling possibility this could already be happening. Here's the part that should make serious people pause. If someone, good actors or bad actors, were doing this today, building non-human user populations to steer an algorithm, there would be no automatic way to detect it. Because the behavior looks human, the patterns look organic, the engagement looks legitimate, the clusters look natural, the signals look authentic. The algorithm would simply react to the world it believes is real, and that world can be engineered, manufactured, completely phony, quietly, indirectly, at scale. Why this vulnerability has gone unnoticed? The reason this issue hasn't been widely discussed isn't because it's far-fetched. It's because almost nobody has thought about it, and nobody has published the concern. Even this video probably won't get much circulation, maybe even none at all. The people who understand algorithms tend to deeply focus on model architecture, training data, adversarial attacks, system-level vulnerabilities, content moderation, bias, and fairness. But almost nobody, is studying non-human behavior ecosystems, not bots, not spams, not click farms, but AI-generated populations that behave like real users. This falls into a blind spot between disciplines. It's not cybersecurity, it's not data science, it's not sociology, it's not psychology, it's not machine learning. It's all of them at once. And when a problem sits at the intersection of multiple fields, it tends to sit in nobody's field. That's how vulnerabilities hide in plain sight. The non-human population problem? Imagine a system where AI doesn't just generate content. It generates people, not real people, not identities tied to stolen data, but behavioral personas. A 42-year-old who watches woodworking videos, a 19-year-old who binges on conspiracy content, a 55-year-old who comments on financial challenges, a 28-year-old who follows fitness creators, a 33-year-old who watches political debates at 2 a.m. Each generated persona has preferences, habits, rhythms, moods, inconsistencies, boredom, curiosity, and because AI can simulate all that, the algorithm sees them as authentic users. Now, imagine not just one persona, but 10,000 or a million, not bots, not scripts, not spam, but non-human humans, each behaving just realistically enough to pass through the algorithm's filters unnoticed. They pass muster. This is the part that makes experts pause. Now, how non-human populations influence an algorithm? Here's where the rubber meets the road. Algorithms don't decide what content's good, they infer it from patterns. So if non-human populations binge certain videos, abandon others, cluster around specific topics, comment in coordinated but human-like ways, create the illusion of a trend, suppress the illusion of another, form interest graphs that look organic, the algorithm will respond exactly as it's designed to. It will amplify what it believes people want, even if those people don't exist. This is not hacking. This is not breaking into a system. This is not rewriting code. This is feeding the algorithm an artificial reality and letting it draw the wrong conclusion. And because the algorithm is blind to authenticity, it will never know the difference. And why this matters more than people realize, if non-human populations can influence algorithms, the implications are enormous. Trends could be manufactured not by bots spamming likes, but by non-human users behaving like real fans. Narratives could be reshaped, not by propaganda, but by artificial communities forming around certain ideas. Creators could be elevated or buried, not by favoritism, but by engagement patterns that look organic. Entire communities could be distorted, not by hacking, but by artificial interest graphs that mislead the system. Public perception could shift without anyone noticing, not because the people changed their minds, but because the algorithm changed its understanding of what people want. Algorithms don't just reflect reality, they shape it. And if a non-human behavior can shape the algorithm, then non-human behavior can shape reality. They can shape the future, quietly, indirectly, at scale. Then we have the ethical line, and that's why this script is responsible. Before anyone panics, let's be clear. This script is not a tutorial or a blueprint or a guide or a method or a how-to. It's a conceptual warning. I'm simply the one who connected the dots. But anyone asking the same question could have reached the same concern. They could have reached out to AI just like I did. The danger isn't that someone will watch this and try it. The danger is that someone already could, and no one is studying it. This script is opposite of harmful. It's protective. It's the kind of idea that researchers investigate, engineers test, policymakers consider, platforms quietly take seriously. You're not exposing a vulnerability. You're identifying a blind spot. And blind spots are only dangerous when they're ignored. We're living in the first era where AI can generate content, AI can generate voices, AI can generate faces, AI can generate conversations, AI can generate behavior, AI can generate communities. But we still haven't asked the real question. What happens when AI can generate entire populations that algorithms believe are real? That's the question this video raises. Then we have the greed factor, the incentive nobody wants to admit. Every major platform, YouTube, TikTok, Amazon, Google, Instagram, runs on one engine, greed. Not the malicious kind, not the cartoon villain kind, the structural kind, the kind that says maximize retention, maximize engagement, maximize ad revenue, maximize growth. Greed is the invisible hand behind every algorithmic decision. And here's the uncomfortable truth. Greed doesn't care whether the signals are real. It only cares whether the signals are profitable. If artificial behavior looks like engagement, the algorithm will reward it. If non-human populations look like real users, the algorithm will serve them. If artificial clusters look like trends, the algorithm will amplify them, not because the system is broken, but because the system is obedient. Greed doesn't ask questions. Greed doesn't verify authenticity. Greed doesn't check for humanity. Greed optimizes, and optimization is blind. That's why artificial influence isn't just possible, it's inevitable unless somebody intervenes. Because the same incentive that drives the good actors also drives the bad actors, and the algorithm simply does not know the difference. The good guys, the bad guys, and everyone in between. This isn't a story about villains, it's a story about incentives. The bad guys aren't the only ones who might use non-human populations. So might political campaigns, corporations, activists, influencers, creators, marketers, foreign governments, domestic groups, anyone with a vested interest in shaping perception. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud. Every habitual user of social media has a vested interest in influencing the algorithm. Every creator wants more reach. Every brand wants more visibility. Every movement wants more traction. Every voice wants more amplification. And if non-human behavior becomes a tool, even a subtle one, the temptation will be universal. This is why the vulnerability matters, not because the bad actors might exploit it, but because everyone might, and many won't be able to resist. It's greed in stealth mode. They call it something else, but that's what it is. And once artificial behavior becomes normalized, the algorithm's understanding of reality becomes negotiable. That's the danger. So that brings us to the responsibility of the thinkers. The script isn't meant to scare anybody. It's meant to wake up the thinkers, and we have plenty of them. I guess it depends on what they're thinking about. The engineers, the researchers, the policymakers, the creators, the people who understand the technology is shaped by incentives, and incentives are shaped by awareness. This is a call to the people who say, is this really possible? We should test this. We need safeguards. We need detection tools. We need transparency. We need to understand non-human behavior before it understands us. This script is not the final word, a starting point, a conceptual seed, a challenge to the people who build the systems we rely on. Because if non-human populations can influence algorithms and our own top AI systems in the U.S., all confirm it can certainly be done, then the people who understand the algorithms need to understand non-human populations. and they need to understand them now before the world wakes up to a reality shaped by signals that never came from humans. Folks, all 4 major AIs in the U.S. concur. This is a real possibility. Folks, algorithms don't shape the world. We shape the world through the signals we feed them. If non-human behavior becomes indistinguishable from human behavior, then the world the algorithm believes in may no longer be the world we live in. That's the danger. Not hacking, not code injection, not system breaches. The danger is illusion. The danger is plausibility. The danger is artificial populations that behave just real enough to steer the systems that steer us. And the only thing standing between us and that future is whether the people who understand this concept decide to take it seriously. So this is the moment, not to panic, not to accuse, not to speculate wildly, but to think, to test, to research, to build safeguards, to ask the hard questions before the world needs the answers. Because the future won't be shaped by the smartest algorithm. It will be shaped by the smartest people who understand what the algorithms can't see. And right now, the algorithm can't see the difference between a human and a non-human shadow that behaves like one. That's the vulnerability. That's the opportunity. That's the warning. And that's the MRI. So the challenge, if you've made it this far, here's challenge number 1. If you're skeptical, good, you should be. Take this idea to your preferred AI system, ChatGPT, Gemini, XAI, Claude, Perplexity, whoever you trust. Ask them one question. Is it technically plausible for non-human behavior to influence an algorithm indirectly without hacking it? Don't take my word for it. See what they say. If the smartest systems in the world acknowledge the possibility, then the possibility deserves attention. And challenge number 2, share it with the thinkers. If this idea resonates with you, share it with someone who thinks deeply about systems, an engineer, a researcher, a creator, a journalist, a policymaker, a friend who understands incentives, not for hype, not for clicks, not for virality. Share it as a thought starter, because the sooner we talk about non-human influence, the sooner we can build safeguards against it. Folks, thank you. Thank you for watching. In Greed MRI, we are the greed detector. We scan the world for hidden greed so you don't get played. Join us every day for our short videos, our long videos, and our new podcasts. Greed MRI continues tomorrow. Thanks again, folks.